Hello.
Oh my gosh.
Surprise. We are here together in person. Like, it's very rare to be like in person next to people. I know the people listening to the podcast are going to be like, what the fuck are they talking about? So if you're listening to this.
Why did you point at yourself when you said, are you listening to this? If they're listening to this, you can't see you point at yourself. So anyways, we're actually in Sedona today. We made the trip out here. Why are we here, Ashley?
It is my birthday tomorrow. I turned 37, and it's kind of a miracle, I feel like, with my mom life that everything like came together for us to be able to take a trip to come back to Sedona, which is like, I think like the favorite place. Like if we were going to have like a top adventure spot, do you think it's here?
I feel like we still never get enough time in Sedona because it is so magical and there is so many different spots to explore and just fall in love with. So we're going to have a few more hours tomorrow to play around for Ashley's birthday. Super exciting. And we haven't seen each other since Halloween.
Yeah, that was the last time that we've seen each other in person, other than calls and Zooms and
Lots
StreamYards.
Of very weird phone calls at 10 at night. While she's making food, I'm trying to fucking knock the fuck out.
And then I'm like, sorry, my son is waking up now. And you just hear like, what do you hear in the background when I have to get off the phone?
Is this when you're in the bathroom or not?
That was only that one time.
It's been more than one time. Okay.
Well, you know what? When you're talking to your best friend, you can pee while you're on the fucking phone. That's like
it's law.
Right?
It is part of, I think, laws of attraction unwritten. So what are we talking about today?
Channeling. All about channeling. And I'm excited because I think I've talked about it like multiple times of like my journey of stepping into it and feeling like called into channeling, but it's been very much a reluctant one that is kind of actually the last time we were in Sedona was the first time that I think I realized that I was being called into it.
You came out of the closet.
I forgot that.
She came out of the closet to me here in Sedona as being a channeler.
What is your memory of this? I feel like we have different memories of this then. Because I don't feel like, I think my version is that it was, 2 years ago and a couple months and a month. But we saw Abraham Hicks for the first time in Phoenix. And I think I was not as excited about Abraham Hicks, but I was like very open to it. And it was an amazing experience. But then I got really emotional at one point and it hit me and I was like, oh, like I just remembered something by being here and witnessing this of somebody doing this in front of this group of people. And I feel like I start to kind of get emotional. I was like, I'm going to be doing something like this. And this is why I'm here. I'm here to witness this. I'm here to feel this. I'm like, it felt like one of those things that I set up as a remembrance for me to like call my soul back into it. And I still feel that same weird feeling of like, I don't know, just acknowledging something. And I'm like, I don't know what it's going to be or what my version is of it. It's going to be something kind of different in my own way. But that was like, I think the door opening to it. And like, I would dip in a toe and dip in a toe. I got pregnant. And then I was like, I just didn't want to channel. I didn't want to do anything like that. I was just all about my body. And I feel like I just trusted that. And then after a little bit of time went by, I felt really called back to it. And so I've done it mostly in writing form. Lucinda, who we love and has been our guest, has also been one of my spiritual teachers. And so I started to work with her like very briefly on it. Maybe I voice channeled with her once. And then Krista, who is our guest today, Crista Marie Miller, is actually my current mentor. And she's somebody that I'm working with to basically like up-level my discernment with like all kinds of readings that I would do. And specifically with channeling is why we came together, because she's an amazing person that's a voice channel. So I've totally looked up to her, like watching her lead the way with that. She's been like this amazing source of information just when it comes to like, what does this mean? Or, oh my gosh, like that has totally happened to me. And like, I think that confirmation is like one of the big things that might come out of it for other people, like especially when we touch on like those everyday types of channeling states that we naturally go into. I think that as soon as we have the recognition of how we're actually doing something that's too like spiritual as fuck and amazing, when we just think that it's just like normal, I think that's pretty cool. You can tell I get excited because I feel like I usually pause a little bit more to like,
you go on, girl. Fuck, it's your birthday. This is your excitement. I do feel like we're like on an episode of Modern Family though, like in this couch interview scenario. But what I like about Krista is she's funny as fuck too. The couple times, I've run into her. That's what I love about her too. She seems very approachable, and you can have like an everyday conversation with her. With some of those people, it's like we slowly back out of conversation. With Krista, she's very approachable, so I'm excited to hear you two unload. Oh God, that sounded wrong.
Okay,
bring everyone into. Okay, well, I didn't mean to. That one was accidental.
We're gonna pull her in shortly. Okay. I think we usually bring our guest in about 15 minutes in, but like I'm sure if we brought you in a little bit early, Krista, you'd be fine with that, right? You can give us a thumbs up backstage.
Why is she flipping this off? Oh.
No, she is not. What we would love to see, I'm going to look at the comments right here. We have like our camera up here and our comments here. So if it looks like I'm looking down. So we see Amy. Hi, Amy. Hi, Lisa. Solange is helping us. Hi, Maritza. So what we want you to do as well, so that this can be like interactive and like you're learning, we're growing together, we're experiencing this together. If you do have comments or curiosities like about channeling, we are going to go into your questions at some point, and as we pull things out that feel compelling or your own experiences, like we're going to start tuning in and just seeing what else do you guys have? Oh, look, Krista's already getting a shout out. Lisa's saying that Krista's amazing. Completely agree. But yes, just how I demonstrated right now, we can pull you into the conversation with us, just like you're here, snuggling with us in Sedona, experiencing the vibes.
I don't know what you're doing right now.
I feel like we feel all cozy on the couch, like, you know. There's like a little fire. It's not on, but there's a little fireplace right here. Just
it's not on, but it's there. But because I really kind of want to just participate in watching you guys really talk about this, because I want to absorb it. But like you and I were talking about when we were getting ready for this, that understanding of everyday channeling, and that the bigger part of us is with source. And that's what I'm really intrigued about, is tapping into the larger part of you that is with source energy, that is all knowing, that is eternal, that is there with source. And that's where I'm really interested, understanding how to really get in that meditation stage and really channel yourself, your higher power, your innermost being. That's what I'm really excited about.
Yeah. I think we were talking about like other things that we were leaning into with this conversation, and I really want people to know that they are not like separate from the spiritual gifts. And I think that that's what I noticed with me and channeling, or even before I was like doing readings, I did the same thing with that shit, where I was like, oh, I really want to be able to, or like, I need to get to this level and then I'll be able to do it, rather than just like diving in and knowing that this is like, at least we'll talk about it with Krista. She's going to give us some good ground rules of like what you want to tune into and how do you set intentions around connecting with yourself specifically. So I think I felt that energy from Krista. Maybe I was pulling that in, but I'm like, let me not get too carried away. But like not keeping yourself separate from the spiritual gifts that you're developing or that you're tuning to. I know we have a lot of healers and light workers and people that do have gifts, like where they have one thing and they're developing the next. And so that's a big one. And also, like, I think the surrender, the letting go of control has been a big lesson, because Krista has me like meditating in the dark with blindfolds on to like kind of a sensory deprivation, which I didn't even tell her, like the anxious as fuck moment that I had like doing that the other day. But I'm leaning in, but like she was telling me how important it was to like release that control. And I think that there's a lot of moments like when we're speaking and you get into those natural states of like flow where things are just coming out beautifully and you're not thinking about it. I think it's directly related to that, like releasing of control and just letting it happen. And
that's certainly been a journey for you, hasn't it?
it still is, yes.
Yeah, but the releasing of control from like a recovery aspect, we call that being in God consciousness. And I know there's a lot of like feels around the God word, but that's when you're really speaking, you're speaking from the heart and you're just tapped into innermost self and you're telling your truth. Is always considered God consciousness. And I honestly don't remember things that I say when I'm in God consciousness. It's like I miss like patches of my own time here on earth because it's just you're speaking from that higher self. And it's an amazing feeling, though. So I'm so excited to watch you go in this next branch of your journey. It'd be nicer if you accepted your gifts a little bit quicker, because I swear it's like
why is that?
Because bitch, like with the tarot cards, it was like a step to get you to like accept that, and now with channeling, it was a step to get you there. Like you're a powerful motherfucker. Like
I get to open at my own fucking rate, like a flower, like unfolding.
Ain't no fucking flower.
Stepping into it.
Just kidding.
In my own time, like literally, like there's been multiple coaching sessions, and like I even in therapy, when I was in therapy over the summer, like. Yes, I did bring up channeling to my therapist. I feel like you really have to like go out of your way to find the right therapist when you have gifts and you want to talk about them openly. And I think that there was so many tears. There were so many emotions to be released. And it was like, there's a lot of past life shit that comes up as we step into any gift. And that one was very loaded for me. And I feel like that I needed to do that work. And then right at the right time, committing to Krista, who I want to pull in.
Yeah.
Now.
Well, I want to edit.
Okay, fine. What's your edit?
You're allowed to open like the beautiful flower just like you are, but I just want to make sure that you don't let like the pressures or other people make you feel weird or like you can't be everything that you are. So that's my hope for you.
Oh, I think I'm leaning into that,
Okay.
you know? I think that's all the shadow work of like the getting off on like, I might be rejected by people. And like, that's why I love Carolyn Elliott. It's like, the rejection is going to feel so pleasurable. I'm like really doing the fucking shadow work.
You're enjoying touching those corners then.
I guess so.
All right then.
Yeah, you're digging it.
Shit.
Isn't that how we're doing this now?
Okay.
If you guys want to do it like us as well. Sorry. Never. I'm
the bad one. Well, I'm the one that brings
I think we egg it on. Okay. We egg it on and it ends Krista. Up. Okay, I know. Sorry, we always have to bring in our guests to kind of like fucking focus ourselves. Otherwise, we just go everywhere. Okay, we're going to pull you in, Krista. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I am awesome. How are you guys?
We're having fun. We get very carried away. I feel like it's like an adventure over here. So thank you for bringing us in just to kind of like hone us and get us on topic. Quiet coyote.
Quiet coyote.
So can you introduce yourself for starters? Because I know you and I feel like so many people here know about you. But for the people that don't, tell people just a little bit about you and your gifts and what you do and why we invited you for channeling specifically.
Well, my name's Crista Marie Miller. I am an intuitive medium and voice channeler. I have seen spirit my whole life. I don't know a life without spirit in it. So it's always been a part of my life. And then at the age of 7, I had a very eye-opening experience where spirits started, not only was I seeing them, but they started interacting with me. And at age 7, my main spirit guide, Eloise, came to me and told me what I was seeing, what I was feeling, what I was witnessing was a gift from God. And it was nothing to be ashamed of. It was nothing to be afraid of. That was like the number one thing. He like squashed my fear right away. And I was very grateful for that because shortly after that, higher ascended masters started coming to me, which I didn't know they were master teachers. So Yeshua came to me, which a lot of people know as Jesus, and then Mary Magdalene. And then funny story, Lord Shiva came to me and I was terrified because of all the arms. But then, so from that was like the one time because I was fearful and Eloise came and was like, don't be afraid. and then Krishna came forward, and for some reason I was okay with a big blue man with this whole galaxy swirling inside of him.
Disney Channel Aladdin theme, so you've been conditioned with that. Yeah.
So that's kind of been my core team that I've really gone with and been taught from. I have not read many spiritual books. I just get most of my information from spirit, and I'm super blessed. And the more that I have stepped into doing this work professionally, I do mainly focus on Magdalene.
Mm-hmm.
But as she's been telling me the past about a year now, that it's more of a collective divine feminine Christ consciousness that I am channeling, and not Magdalene directly. Though Magdalene is my voice box, my speaking box for who I use, it's more of a collective.
Oh my gosh. I feel like we do need to go live separately in my group to speak specifically about business and like have the divine feminine like speak to women and healers and like, but we'll like, that's just me sort of selfishly being excited about all the juiciness that you bring. But the channeling, the voice channeling, I feel like I don't know if it's just me noticing it, but it feels like that has been like your primary thing that you've stepped into in bigger and bigger ways, more public ways as well. And so would you say that the voice channeling is like a primary thing that you focus on, that you're here to give, I guess, the most?
Yeah. For sure. It all started, when I was younger, my passion was acting. I loved to act. And recently, like I've been doing a lot of soul searching, a lot of self work, and they taught me that, when you're acting, you're voice channeling. You're channeling that character. And so that's when I was like, when was I most happy? I'm like, well, I was, and I was a theater major, then I switched over to film. And that's when I was like, at my core, like I loved acting. I loved being on stage. And it was because I was using my gift of voice channeling. And I enjoy voice channeling because, like James said, I don't remember a thing that I say. And it's so fascinating to me because I'm a huge science nerd. I'm a geek. Like I need scientific proof. And I usually I have my manager with me, Karen Spear, but like the stuff she says that I say during channeling is like, I said that? I don't even know about that. And so like definition, I'm like, okay, this is not coming from me because there's no possible way I can know about any of this stuff that they're talking about. So, I needed that proof that I was channeling a source higher than myself. And but it took many years of development and growth and really getting to know my body, my spiritual cues, and my spiritual team. I feel that's when, with one-on-one training, I really get you to know your spiritual team, because you need to know who you're talking to. And then they're kind of your filters of bringing other people in. So, yeah.
And I know that that's one of the big things that you're like, and why I was drawn to working with you is I was like, I need Krista to like give me the structures to be like, what do I need to do to develop it? Because it's not like you're stepping into some other gift where they taught you in school or you had like a degree, which funny enough, like I always forget about that I was a theater major in college as well.
Go figure.
But there's not a ton of steps for it that are easy to find without a guide and a teacher. And I think I also like delicately wanted to step into this space because while I don't think we ever want to come from fear when we're teaching people things, I think especially when I was pregnant, I was ultra protective of my body. And I think I had that knowing or that intuition of like, like I'm protecting this like amazing little princess baby inside my belly. And I want to make sure that I'm not doing something that I don't know or inviting something in that might, that I might not be aware of how to work with. And so I do feel like I'm stepping with like a different reverence into channeling than I did with like doing readings for other people. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
It is definitely a state of honor and reverence of who you are connecting with, and knowing that your safeguards are up. If you have faith and you are, you have protection, you are going to be protected. especially like, for handwriting and things like that. But it comes to a little bit different avenue when you start voice channeling and allowing them to use your vocal cords. I think that's the energy meld that you really have to be. It's a sacred bond. And part of my mentoring is learning how to work with your energy, being okay with, and like you said, surrendering. It's a huge surrender. I had an amazing opportunity. One of my friends got hooked me up to one of those brain scan machines while I was channeling. And it was so awesome to watch. Was when I was channeling, was my critical brain literally turns off. And so it is losing all control. So my critical brain turns off, and then I drop into theta. And so that's what happens. And that's obviously why I don't remember a thing that's said when I am channeling. I am working on channeling with my eyes open. That's my next really step, because I used to literally boom, I was out. And so now, because I do want to very soon be up on stage walking around, channeling. And so that's what I am working on now, is being more aware, the physical body being aware. And it's also working with the energy, because Magdalene's also learning to use my body while I'm awake too. And it's super cool. I'm so used to my manager Karen being here. I keep Karen. She'll say, when I'm channeling Magdalene, she says my eye color changes.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was like, okay,
that's
a little more greenish.
That's what I need from you, or clarification, because he got me watching Surviving Death on Netflix, which I'm partway through. And I was curious because they were like, yeah, it portrays mediumship and different things. And so, of course, which is interesting because you're the first person I actually learned about spiritual mediumship or physical mediumship and the spiritualist practices. And I was kind of pulled in because they're doing it. But when she lets spirit channel through her, I think it's always been challenging of being oh God, is that going to happen? Am I going to be talking in a weird voice, out of the side of my mouth? If you guys haven't seen it, she'll channel this little boy from her spirit team. And then he's like, hello, it's Darren. And how are you? And I'm am I going to be when you told me in a reading one time that I'm actually a trance channel. And I see this woman going into trance. I was like, okay, spirit, can we set boundaries of
ground rules here, guys?
And so I'm oh, I got to ask Krista about this. So I was what is trance channeling?
So what is your experience with that, Krista?
Well, I am a trance channel. I do go out, and that's when Magdalene comes through. The first, why do they want me to censor this? This is interesting. Oh my goodness. So, couple cue signs when they want you to channel. I have no idea. So, but I will go into my first trance channel, but my tongue will get tied up like it is right now. Oh. My tongue, it almost feels like my tongue is fat in my mouth where I can't get the words out, and that's because it's almost like a pressure of them wanting to come through. Or another cue is my nose will start itching like crazy. That's another cue that they're hey, it's our turn. It's our turn. And it almost feels like a feather going underneath my nose. But the very first time I trance channeled, I studied a lot of spiritualism and spiritualist from back in the 30s with the table tipping and the red light and the cone and ectoplasm. I completely, that's another thing I'll completely geek out about because it's so fascinating. That's the physical mediumship part.
That's the part too that you really confirmed things with me of I'm that's why my nose is itching. I'm doing these readings and I'm I feel I keep having to go like this. And I'm why does it happen? As well as, I really hope that ectoplasm never happens to me on the level that I see it in those photos. But I literally felt can't even believe I'm sharing this. My nose wanted to start dripping a little bit with thin stuff when I was doing readings.
Yeah, that's the ectoplasm. Yeah. That's
the other day. And I was
gross.
It wasn't thick. It wasn't spewing out, but I don't know, for whatever reason, it's only in recent months, this year that started occurring more and more. And so I don't know, that's one of those weird things that it's hard to talk about. But do you want us to create space for you to channel? Because I think Magdalene wanted to come in, or the divine feminine consciousness. What do you want to do?
Well, Should I share my first experience of trance?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so it's red light channeling. So you sit down, the room is completely dark, and you have this bright red light on you. Okay, and this was a spiritualist technique of everybody would sit in a parlor and they would put, you know, a red sheet or handkerchief or something over the light, and it was red, and it puts you into an automatic trance state. And so I was at a mediumship retreat, and we were all doing a whole bunch of different spiritual activities, and everybody went up. This was an advanced mediumship retreat, and everybody sat in the chair, and it's so cool. It's so freaking cool because you can see spirit overlay over there. So like you can see their facial features change.
Wow.
And it's quite intense because everybody has to hold space for it, and you watch. Well, I was the last person that got up there, and I sat down, and I was out like that, and I started talking. Nobody else talked, but I started just because I went into it, and I turned into an African woman, and I had long braids, and I sat there and I channeled for 30 minutes. Now, the first time you voice channel or in your trance, you should only do it for maybe 3-4 minutes at a time. But they allowed me to go for 30 minutes because nobody knew how to bring me out. And so finally they're like, we need to, they kept saying Krista, and I wasn't coming back. I was just kept talking and talking and talking. And they finally came and touched me on my shoulder. And that's a huge no. You do not touch somebody when they are channeling, when they're trance channel, because what happens, I came slamming back down into the body really, really hard. And I came, and like the spirit came out, and I came in, and I had to run to the bathroom and threw up this whole glob of white ectoplasm. It was the most disgusting thing. I never died in my pocket, and it broke in half.
Wow.
Intense. And oh my goodness, they were apologizing left and right, and it was not a fun experience, but I learned so much of what to do. And then that's finally when I started asking my team, I'm like, okay, what foundation skills do I have to do? How? Because they wanted me, they're like, your body's not prepared for this. So good. And I just learned this recently. I think I told you in our last session, but electrolyte water.
Oh, I got it.
Yes.
Yeah.
With,
here.
where the ectoplasm doesn't coagulate as much.
Oh.
So it's not like ooey gooey sticky. Fun stuff.
Yeah, I feel like we're really pulling back the curtain.
I don't know about this.
I know. There's times where I'm like, sometimes it's one thing to do it, and it's another thing to talk about the process that happens to you. It's kind of like how people might talk about pooping. I feel like it's kind of like behind the scenes of this stuff.
Behind the scenes of pooping. So, Krista, can I ask you? You mentioned earlier that your guide really let you know that this was a gift from God. Mm-hmm. And can you care to elaborate on that? Because we just have so many different people that listen to the podcast. You know, a lot of people say like it's evil, or it's like devil worship, or it's you're messing with dark arts. I, of course, don't believe that. What's your take on when people come at you with that kind of energy, though?
Like I said, Yeshua came to me right away and kind of confirmed what my spirit guide Eloise said, and showed me all my past lives where I was an oracle at Delphi for 13 times in 13 lifetimes. I was a Gnostic priestess. Like, I've been doing this so many lifetimes, and he showed me all of these images of this. You have been on this path. You have been on this path many, many times. And I've had many experiences with the churches. When I was 10 years old, I was channeling, or speaking in tongues, as they call it, in a Baptist church when I was 10. And when I started doing a mediumship, the pastor's wife's father came, and we had just passed. And I was sitting in the front row because I was going to go and speak in tongues that day. And this gentleman in spirit came up to me, and it was the first time like a crossover loved one came to me, and he was telling me all about his life and how he wanted to talk to his daughter. And so I turned to the pastor's wife and was saying, there's a gentleman here. He's doing this, he's doing that. And so I gave all this information, and she turned pale white as a ghost. Pale white as a ghost. And they said, please, after service today, please come into the back. And I said, okay. Well, the people that I came with allowed me to stay there by myself, which was another, we won't go into that. And they actually took me into the back and put me in a chair and performed a full-on exorcism on me.
Whoa! Wow!
I was speaking to the devil, and
Okay.
I remember Yeshua in the corner. I still get emotional. He was just crying so hard and apologizing. Like, I'm sorry, my daughter. I'm sorry, my daughter. And I kept looking at them because I was so confused. And I'm like, was I wrong? And they're like, no, you were right. That's why this is from the devil. And I couldn't. Here was Yeshua, who they're praying to, saying, I'm sorry, you're in the right. You did nothing wrong. And then I have these humans saying, you're wrong. The devil's inside you. We need to cast it out. And that was the last time I went into an organized church type of setting. And that's what kind of really woke me up with the difference between the dogma religion and what I do. So I know for a fact that it's not evil, because it's truly part of who I am and who I have been many lifetimes. Mm-hmm. So it's a huge revelation to me of just and I kept trying to ask them while they were dousing me with holy water and everything, and I'm like, what's the difference of me speaking in tongues and then me speaking to your dad who's in the spirit? I can never, I still can't baffle, and I can't put my head around that. I don't know what the difference is.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that experience with us. I mean, the hypocrisy behind it is, we're talking about it on the way up here, the hypocrisy about religion, a lot of things. But I personally believe the closer you are to spirit, the better, and that's amazing that you have that gift. Are you in any kind of place or any kind of mode to maybe channel for us today?
Yeah, no, I've been preparing all day.
So you just let us know what you need from us to best hold space
maybe shut
for
the
you.
Fuck up.
Hey, what is my coach thing? And what do you need, Krista? I'm just kidding.
Magdalene wants to know how long, because it's really cool. I have to share this. This is my coolest thing. So when I'm out, I'll go out and I'll walk around the yard, or sometimes I'll even hop to the beach, or I'll go up in the mountains. And when she's ready for me to come back, it's like a bat signal that comes up, and that's to come back into the body. So
the signal,
spirit signal.
I feel like it's 33 after right now, which is always one of my numbers, 33. But I'd say I don't know, 5 minutes or
4
less,
or 5 minutes,
something like that.
minutes.
You could, Magdalene, thank you.
All right. She's like, okay, we can do this. All right. Yeah, you don't have to do anything. Like I said, I've been doing this for a while, so I can come back on my own now. And she knows what to do. And yeah, let's see what happens. So here we go.
All right.
Greetings, my dearest ones. Thank you for allowing me to come through today. Thank you, for I am here today to tell you that you are creator beings. You are creator beings in your own right. You are expanding the definition of what creativity is. You are expanding the definition of what creativity is here and now. You must think of creativity. Most of you think of creativity as painting, writing. No, you are creating every single day, and you must understand that the creativity that is inside of you is precious. It is what is needed, especially in this time of the world right now. This is what is needed. This is what is needed in order for you to create, and to create the life that you dream of. For you are all, just by existing, you are shown the power of your creativity, but it is not what comes from the body, is what is come from your spirit. For when you are, as the topic of today is the channeling, you are a pure channel, and that is your creativity. You allowing spirit to come through you, whether it is through writing, whether it is through painting, or even just the simple act of doing the dishes. Yes, doing the dishes can even be creative. You can make it fun. You can make it creative. You can, let's twist it up for a day. Instead of doing, the plates at once, let's do the spoons at once. That is creativity. That is what's the spice of life. That is what everybody thinks of, when they're like, where's my soul purpose? It's being creative. It's being creative and doing things differently every single day. Do not get into the humdrum of every single day of a repetition. No, screw it. Do those spoons first. Do the cups first when you're doing the dishes. Spin it up. For that is what is so beautiful about the life. The house you live in has come to you through the decisions and actions that you have participated in creating. The way you put your chairs, the way you put your couch. And it's also ideal to change up the creative platform that you are sitting in every single day. Not every single day, but at least once every 3 months, change your furniture around. For when you change your physical surroundings, it is changing the energy of the room. It is changing the energy of that you surround you. For it, the energy flows. And just the simple act of placing things in different orders changes the energy. There is a law of entropy that Krista speaks about often, that change is necessary. Change is necessary in order to bring about any type of exclamation of life, any type of expression, any type of understanding about life is through creativity. You are all creative. You are creators. You are all creators. And I just wanted to come through today and tell you all of this beautiful, beautiful message that you are creator gods and you are creating with every single breath you are breathing in and out. That is creations. And blessings, my dear loved ones. I'll leave you with that.
Wow. Thank you so much.
I always come back and I'm like, I don't even know if I said anything.
Like, was I talking? I love the creativity and the creator message. And I think like the circulating of the energy is like a thing that I get a lot. Like, and I think that that's why we were talking about even coming to Sedona and like being here on a trip in a different place. Like, she was essentially talking about creativity of like doing things and experiencing things differently each day. And so I feel like that circulation of life force energy and how we interact with it is like, that's a lot of the magic. And so like,
especially in this time of life, right, where we are right now, where we are, you know, basically it is like Groundhog Day, the same thing over and over and over again.
Right?
Yeah, do things differently. My spirit guide Eloise, he's a smart ass, and I'm like, how am I going to change things up today? He's like, put your left leg in your pants first instead of your right. I'm like, okay. Find different ways of doing things and keeping things fresh and keeping things alive, and I just love that. Like, even when I go on my nature hikes, because I try to hike at least 3-4 times a week to get myself grounded and centered. I'll take different paths and find different plants and sit there and really, you know, soak up the nature. It's we need it. We need it in our life.
And I feel like that's how we open up the quantum, because like possibility exists when we don't know what's going to happen in the next moment. And so I feel like if anyone's like wanting to experience like quantum healing or playing in the quantum or whatever, like the crazy like latest hashtags are in our healing community, it's like I think that's like at a basic everyday level like really what you're doing.
For sure.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, I just want to ask a little bit more about your experience, since you have this beautiful gift. Like, you know, how does it feel? Like you said, you walk around. How does it feel to be in that space? And what's the longest that you've been out as you've been channeling someone?
So I just recently did, Karen and I are working on a big project that will be revealed soon. And I channeled for 3 hours.
Whoa.
Wow.
Dang. What was that like for you? Out of body, or so to speak.
And that's what really started, like, because I have a health guide, his name's Xander. And I'm like, okay, this is the next level that's coming in. How can I better prepare my body for holding this longer? And, so yeah, 3 hours has been my max, but 2 days after that, I was drained. I was so tired. I could barely form a thought. I was really depleted, and but I was grateful for that, because like I said, my health guide Xander showed me how to replenish, and he's like, and this is how you better prepare the body for what you're doing. And so I was like, oh, thank goodness for that. So I don't know what the next 3 hour. Hopefully I won't be as drained. And what do I experience on day-to-day life? Because I see, when I am tapped in, I see altered dimensions, different timelines. And so I see things overlaid on top of each other. And so if I'm walking around, and I kind of have fun with it, because I open up and allow, And so it's really cool when I'm on my nature walks, I can see, you know, people who have walked in those paths before. I can see, you know, different types of animals going by, and it's all kind of like hologram-ish kind of for me. And I'm blessed to allow certain people into my inner circle that really kind of put me into, I kind of describe myself like when I don't have my energy, it's kind of like this Tetris where it's all kind of jumbled, and then I'm blessed to have a couple people in my life that kind of brings all the Tetris pieces back into place and puts me nice in a nice little pillar and gets me situated again. And my spirit team really helps me with that too.
I want to talk a little bit about like the everyday channeling and like how you view that and maybe how people might experience more of that. And then I also want to just like, I think after that, go to like any questions that people are chiming in with. So this is your time right now. If you haven't asked a question, to ask one and interact with us. That's your action. But would you tell us like kind of like how it's depicted in Soul, right? Of like kind of popping out and being in that space like between worlds. Like what is your view on the everyday channeling and how we might invite that in more?
Well, if you really want to start looking into channeling, it's flow state. It's all about flow and getting into flow. Flow state is really where you are a pure channel. So, and everybody gets into flow state. Flow state is when you are at your computer and you are writing or you're creating and 2-3 hours pass and you have no idea where that time goes. That's channeling. That's everyday channeling. My spiritual team says you should do that at least once a day. Get into a flow state. And another program we're working on is teaching people how to get into that natural flow state every single day. Allowing like when you are in that flow state, it just kind of rejuvenates your whole energetic body. And because there's 12 energetic bodies that we work with, and they all light up when we're in that flow state. And that conscious channel just opens up even wider, and all the information flows through. And I love watching people get into that flow state, and it's a beautiful part of the divine because you are connected to that divine. When
I saw a program that we like collaborate on, and I feel like they're sort of connecting dots of something that we create and show up with together, blending different things. So I'm just putting it out there. I'm just pulling it through what they're showing me. Hopefully you'll be excited about that. We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Sorry, I had to blurt that, but there are some questions, but what else were you sharing? I had to just say it.
So finding what gets you into flow state, finding out what you're passionate about. I mean, that's another huge part of channeling is your passion. You should live every single freaking life with every day with passion. That's another and sitting in your power is another thing I teach you when working one-on-one with people. Sitting in your power and allowing you and expressing that passion. What brings you passion? What lights you up? And then do it daily. Do it daily. And that's what allows you to get more and more into channeling. And it's a little bit, getting into flow state is going to be a little bit different for every single person. But find out, like, just remember back to those times where it was like, oh my goodness, I sat there and I read that book for 3 hours and I looked up and it was like, I thought I was only here for 5 minutes. What did you do beforehand to get you into that state? And really start diving into your own personal development of finding out what puts you there.
Love that. Absolutely.
Yep.
Huge year goals.
So I know, let's see, Samantha says she has a question. Hi, Samantha. She says, I feel like I have to get close to the computer without
read it?
One like an old lady. Yeah, can you read it? I love you guys. 37.
I have a quick question. Does having a little ringing in the ear like a radio station fine-tuning a direct signal for connection from spirit? Usually I get a heaviness in chest and shallow breathing, but often have this ring come in and perks my attention. Absolutely. Well, it has, that doesn't have to do anything with channeling, but the ringing in your ear is your body, because it's not in tune yet. It's trying to get into the frequency of spirit. So spirit speaks to you in frequency. And so the ringing, it is much like a radio station. It's like a ringing in your ear. And pay attention to which ringing it is in the ear, because that has different meanings. So yeah, it's frequency. So it is spirit coming in and trying to talk with you. That's also a sign that you're clairaudient, which means clear hearing. And then the heaviness in the chest and the shell. Yeah. So when I am channeling, I have been, it looks like I'm not breathing. I like almost stop breathing. And when I go into deep meditation, I very, very shallow breathing. That is the body relaxing and surrender. Shallow breathing is a form of surrender. It is good. Okay, my health guide Xander's like, but they need to breathe. Breathing's important. I'm like, I know, Xander. So breathing techniques. As you could tell, like before I go into channeling, I really bring up my breath. So shallow breathing should not be done consciously. Xander wants me to tell you that you should not shallow breathe consciously because you want to have that oxygen. Your cells need that oxygen. So shallow breathing often, yeah. So the heaviness in the chest could mean a whole bunch of different things. But yeah, sometimes when they want to channel it, there is different pressure because it will come in different ways.
So Samantha was saying like it's often the left ear, but it's going to be from your own spirit team of learning what the right ear versus the left ear would mean, right. My understanding. Is that right?
Yeah. So my left ear ringing for me means one of my spirit guides. My right ear ringing usually means my angels.
Ooh.
So I'll read this one for you, Krista, because I have great eyesight at 39.
Good for you.
It says, I'm just curious if it's easier to channel at any certain times of your womanly cycle, like ovulation, perhaps. LOL.
Absolutely. That's another part that I do on my one-on-one training is knowing your cycle. And men have that cycle too. It's connected to the moon cycle. There is especially Magdalene's huge on sacred sexuality and sex magic and knowing when you are in, it's part of your flow state too. So paying attention to your moon cycle is huge of when you're developing. So you know, okay, these are my key times to know and start developing my channeling. Because you're able to tap in easier in certain times of your cycle. But again, it's unique for each individual. You really have to watch it. But yeah, moon cycles is completely relevant. And if you really want to get into it, the planet cycles too, but we won't.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Let's see. From Alyssa, I'm going to scan and see if there's any other ones that seem... But yeah, Alyssa.
So it says, do you have any tips on how to align with them that more? I have ringing in my right ear almost daily.
Okay. My goodness, Eloise. I was like, book a session with me.
Plug it in there, girl.
Yeah.
What I'm training. Okay. All right, guys. Okay. So when you have the ringing and you notice, okay, that ringing in my right ear, just stop, pay attention to what you're doing. What are you doing? What are you thinking about? Because that's them trying to say, hey, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. So they're trying to communicate to you to pay attention. So just sit there and to align. I would have to talk with you more on one-on-one individually because I'd have to know what your eating habits are, how much water intake, what you're doing to calibrate your body, because your body really has to be calibrated in order to allow spirit to come in. And that's why the ringing, it's coming in because spirit's trying to talk, but your frequency and your body and your energetic bodies are not lining up. So a great analogy I use is when we are communicating with spirit, we have to raise our energy up and they actually have to lower theirs. And so it's meeting in the middle. That's why they call it mediumship. In the middle. It's basically your body saying, hey, I'm picking up on something, but we're not in quite alignment with it. Learning how you can get more aligned with your energetic bodies is key.
If it's helpful, I think I was like remembering sort of how it started for me, because I think I would also hear that ear ringing, and it would usually be like late at night. The kids had gone to bed. I was sitting by myself in a room, and it would sort of be calling to me. And I think that's when I first was starting to experiment with the voice channeling lightly, and then just also written channeling. and experimenting with, is it different if I type? Is it different if I like write it out? Like, I think that that was like the thing that, like you're saying, got my attention. And then I think I was just like, I mean, maybe I'm not the best example of doing it right. Or I suppose I had my touches of training between Lucinda and other spiritual teachers, but I would just like start to do it and try it. And so I would see what would happen. And so I guess that's sort of like the very big first things I noticed, that that's helpful to anybody, of how it's developing. Not that it's like way past that. I'm such like I feel like I'm in kindergarten of channeling school right now, but still it's like, that's the basics. I guess that was my preschool.
Get a pen and start writing it out. Like when you hear that ringing, if you don't get automatic answers, that's another thing. Stop second guessing yourself. Stop second guessing it. So you get that ring in your ear and you're like, okay, Krista told me to stop. And then you think the grocery list, and you're like, what does the grocery list have anything to do with it? It's like, okay, grocery list. Maybe you're meant to go to the store at a certain time and Spirit's trying to get you there at a certain time. It's not, you're not going to have these huge downloads. Sometimes it's just mundane everyday things of like, hey, you're doing awesome. So if you're sitting there like, okay, what do you have to say? And it's like, I love you, I love you, I love you. And that's the first thing that pops into your head. And you're like, okay, take that for what it is. Take the first thing that pops into your head and take it. Take it. Don't second guess it. If it's just blank, then try writing, try typing, try talking. Talking is a little, if your energy is a little off, it'll be very choppy. We won't get all into that, but yeah, try writing, typing, breathing. Sometimes breathing will allow your energy to, again, expand out. And then when the ringing stops, it's those thoughts in your head. That's Spirit communicating with you. You're not going to hear a disembodied voice going, hey, turn right. No, it's a thought in your head. That's Spirit.
It's all very subtle, more than I think we think it is as well. Like, and so at least for me, like, I feel like some people are like, oh, I see this. And like, it's like a movie. And like, it's very much always felt like to me, subtle energy translation. I think that's why it's so easy to second guess. Mm-hmm. And I think you're so right. Like, I mean, I guess doing the readings and the channeling, it's very much been like my bridge or my basic step to get into that state. But it does feel like the moment I just stopped trying to second guess it and being like, well, I don't want to do mediumship, like, but I see this cat over here that I feel like is past, and I just bring it in and I blurt it. I think that that's kind of been my biggest lesson, of at least that's helped me develop in the reading side. But I think I'm kind of noticing that it all kind of blends in, and it might make sense that somebody might start in doing readings and then progress to channeling, or am I making that up?
Nope. Again, big part of my one-on-one training is we start with the foundations, and depending on where you are in your spiritual journey, I might move you past some things, or we might go on a different route. It's individualized for each and every person, but you start with intuition. Intuition is trusting it. Then then you go to psychic development. Then you do go to mediumship, because speaking with crossed over loved ones is at a good frequency that you can be at. And then we move into channeling, which is higher frequencies. So mediumship development is key. It's very key to do that, because it is a very easy, accessible energy to get to. Magdalene wants me to talk about energetic bodies. I'm like, we don't have time. Energetic bodies. And once you get past the first 4, it's almost like this invisible layer. When you get into the 5th energetic body is where you really start communicating with those crossed over loved ones, and then moving up from there and going up and higher and higher and higher frequencies.
I remember when I did one of your first classes, like the protection focus, mm-hmm. like, and you're like asking us, like, do we have any like concern about like crossed over loved ones or anything? And I was like, I don't really want to talk to the crossed over loved ones. I just want to channel the aliens.
This bitch.
I'll part it. I mean, the multidimensional beings.
Aliens is a bad term. It's derogatory.
What was that?
I said alien is a derogatory term.
I know. I told you. So sorry. I know. I keep telling him this.
She's drunk on power.
Not like that term.
But I remember you were like, okay, like, because I think I don't know, for whatever reason, that's just what called to me and you were like, I usually don't hear that, but that's great. I'm here for it.
So I can take you through mediumship.
We could talk to you all day, and I feel like we talked to you longer than we planned, and I know you have another engagement today, and I know there's other questions coming through, but I want to direct them towards you and where to find you and to watch what you're doing. So we will drop your links, but do you want to tell people out loud some places that they can find you?
Crista Marie Miller across all platforms. That's about it. CristaMarieMiller.com. Crista Marie Miller. Huh?
Krista with a C.
Crista.
Yes, for those listening.
No H, CR. And on Instagram, Facebook, and that's my website as well, CristaMarieMiller.com.
Well, Krista, thank you so much for spending so much time for us. You are amazing. I've learned so much just from sitting here this last 45 minutes with you, so thank you.
She's going to be back also in March, I think it is, because we're talking about basically the Bible, like, and all the sex and the magic and missing women from the Bible.
No, tragedy.
Be back in right?
Mm-hmm. I can't wait.
Thank you so much, darling. You're amazing.
Thank you. It was a
Bye,
blessing.
Krista. Thank you.
Bye.
So you feeling all lit up about it? Huh?
Can you see that I got so excited? I kept cutting her off because I was just like, wait, I see this.
A little kid at the candy store, aren't you?
Yeah. Right. But what do you want to talk about before we leave? Like, thank you guys for sharing this moment with us in Sedona, where we're like, I think our desire when we can like see each other in person more often, that we can do it in person and actually have like a studio space one day where we just like can invite in our guests and like serve them cacao and like be cozy with them.
If anyone has any tips for Arizona, but our podcast listeners will be long gone by then. But what are we talking about next week?
Addiction. We're talking about addiction, and I feel like we're bringing like different dimensions or perspectives to the addiction journey. So how are you feeling about diving into that?
It's something that we've been playing around with for a long time. Of course, it's close to my heart, but I think that us having a spiritual podcast, it does influence your spiritual experience and your spiritual connection so much that I'm glad we're finally doing it.
Yeah. And I feel like with the guests that we're talking to, it's going to be like different angles. So whether somebody has experienced like drug and alcohol addiction, I believe we're going to be diving into like sex and love addiction, and likely like even the experience of like a parent, or if somebody that you love, like a family member, a friend, what the experience is like being the person witnessing that journey unfolding. And so I think that's like exciting to be feeling it out and seeing it from all those different unique journeys and how they relate back. And that is like one of our, I feel like coming into this, that was like one of our intentions for topics, like kind of like today with Krista, that it's like the wise, like channeling Krista and mentor, and then like the newbie, like kind of stepping into channeling, like bringing these different dimensions and perspectives to the same topic. So we are going to go enjoy Sedona and my birthday celebration, and we're probably going to go get some food. We are going to do a cacao ceremony. We might feel inspired and like take some fucking selfies, and you know we were doing that before this started, being like, oh, our lighting looks so good, let's just pose right now and be
gotta get it when it gets good.
But and we might we're gonna do ritual, we're gonna do some hiking, we're gonna go to a vortex tomorrow, one of the energy vortexes, and so
you're getting some happy birthday love.
Thank you.
Well, she can't read it because she's 37 and blind.
I know. I'm 37 tomorrow, and my eyes are not great. Maybe the cacao improves eyesight, and that's like spirit leading me towards my answer. I don't know. You can hope, right? Well, thank you.
Love you guys.
Bye.